All right, so should you wait to buy an EV in 2022? No. Pretty simple, but I'll tell you why. Hey guys, before we get into the details, thank you for checking out Saving Green, your stop for sensible sustainability. Today I'm going to tell you why, if you're really in the market for a new vehicle, you might want to consider getting an EV. Alright guys, so imagine this, it's summer 2022, and you realize that car prices aren't really coming down anytime soon. Yeah, EVs are cool, but they're so expensive, and gas prices probably won't stay this high forever, so maybe I'll just wait a little bit longer, right? Makes sense. So even though EVs are creeping up in their percentage of market share, it's still a small fraction of overall car sales to date. And that's because a lot of people have that line of thinking. EVs seem like they're good technologies, but it just doesn't quite make sense from a pricing standpoint. But to be honest, I just don't think that holds as much water as it did a few years ago. Now you may be asking, I've seen your videos before, you don't even have an EV yourself, you have a plug-in, a Honda Clarity. And yes, I do, and I love it. But for one, they're not making that vehicle after this year, and secondly, they're very difficult to find. But if you can find them, of course I recommend them. But for most of you, a full EV may make the most sense. And also the market is much different than it was in 2018. Back when I was buying my car, really the Model 3 was the only real option, other than, I guess you can say the Leaf and the Bolt, but I don't know, those cars are just, well, look, they're great cars, but they're just a little wonky looking, and that's coming from someone who owns a Clarity. But see, now in 2022, the market is very different. There are tons of EV options at a variety of price points at nearly every level of the market. So let's get into the nitty-gritty. Number one, the environmental argument. So even when you account for lithium mining, battery assembly and waste, shipping and production, the energy mix of most utility grids, and vehicle material recycling, EVs are still, almost across the board, more environmentally friendly and less carbon intensive over their lifetime than internal combustion engines. And as I mentioned, they are specifically a component of the IPCC report of ways to mitigate climate change by switching transportation to electric vehicles whenever possible. Overall, we need to cut emissions by about 60% in the transportation sector by 2050 to achieve carbon neutrality, and the only way to do that is with plug-ins and battery vehicles. Now, of course, the best environmental argument at all is not buying a car altogether, but that may not be feasible for a lot of you. And the second point is affordability. Many EVs now are under 40,000 MSRP, not even including the federal tax credits where available. And given the rise in vehicles across the board, there is definitely price parity in almost every market segment for an EV compared to an internal combustion engine counterpart. And that will expand even into sport utility vehicles and pickups in the next year or two. And when you do take into account those tax credits, and given the recent spike in gas prices, EVs will pay themselves off in spades even sooner than they would just a few years back. Now I have a calculator if you want to justify this for yourself, but basically, as an example, the Model 3, when compared to a pretty efficient gas vehicle getting 30 to 40 miles per gallon, still costs about $1,000 per year to use and operate than that internal combustion vehicle. And when compared against plug-in hybrids like my Clarity or really efficient hybrid vehicles, it's still about $200 to $300 less per year. In fact, gas prices would have to fall down to about $1.60 per gallon, almost 70% less than where they are today, for the plug-ins and hybrids to actually become more cost-effective than the Model 3. So yes, almost at any price per gallon, gas is more expensive than energy from electricity. And number three, safety. Nearly all BEV platforms have the battery complex on the floor of the vehicle, which lowers the center of mass and improves handling and aerodynamics. Furthermore, battery vehicles don't have the constraints of internal combustion engines or components, so they can better optimize crumple zones and weight distribution. Now, there are concerns about battery flammability, but in reality, they are misplaced. In fact, some studies have shown that when compared to an internal combustion engine, battery vehicles are about 10 to 11 times less likely to catch fire after a collision. And when they do, it's usually not right away. So you have some time, which in the context of an electrical fire from a large battery is a really good thing. And obviously, less moving parts, less wear and tear, especially on brake pads, means less likely to break down in inopportune situations. Also a good thing. And for proof, a lot of battery electric vehicles are IIHS top safety picks and are at least as safe as the safest internal combustion engines on the market today. And the last argument is the technology. When you have a giant battery, you can do cool things with electricity, like power faster computers and fancy cameras and autonomous mobility driving systems. Plus, you don't have the constraints of all the gears and pistons and all that kind of stuff. So you have a blank canvas on the interior to rearrange the seats and screens to your liking. Also, electric motors provide near instant torque, and gear shifts are a thing of the past because they don't have a conventional transmission. Now, will a lot of this technology spill into other vehicle segments? Of course, but today, the coolest tech is found in EVs. So yeah, if you're in the market for a new vehicle and you really need to buy a new vehicle, then please consider an EV. Now is the time. And if you really want to get those green bona fides, get the smallest battery that meets your needs, because that will further cut the carbon impact of that vehicle. Now, if you can find them, I still recommend the Honda Clarity or other plug-in or conventional hybrid vehicles. In fact, if you're just in a situation where you can't charge a vehicle, or your commute is too long, or for other reasons you just can't justify a battery EV, then at least get a hybrid. I just don't see the argument today in 2022 for buying a big SUV unless you have a family of like 4 or 5, then yeah, maybe you need that size. But most people don't. And even if you did, there probably is or will be an EV on the market coming soon enough. So whether your main interest is just saving money because of gas prices or saving the planet, it's time to dump your internal combustion vehicle and get with the future. So let me know which new EVs you have your eyes on in the comments below, and I will see you in the next video. Thank you so much. Appreciate your time.